It's time for the 1430 Connection on 1430 WNAV and 99.9 FM, spotlighting news, newsmakers, and important community issues. Now, with this week's edition of the 1430 Connection, here is WNAV news anchor Donna Cole.
Welcome to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me is Bob Mosier, spokesperson for Arundel County Public Schools. Thanks for joining me, Bob.
Sure, always good to be with you.
This is our annual tradition of a back-to-school show, and we are back to school as of next week, which is unusual for Anne Arundel County Public Schools, but mandated by the governor.
Right, unusual for a lot of us around the state, everybody except Worcester County, but everybody will go back the day after Labor Day this year, and we'll all end before the 15th of June.
And there was some reluctance, some animosity, some we don't want the governor mandating what schools should do, and some concern for kids eating during the summer. So tell me how that went.
Right, so our summer meals program was wildly successful. We served over 100,000 meals over the summer, so that was terrific. Our Division of Food and Nutrition Services, headed by Jody Rissy, does a fantastic job of reaching out and coordinating meals both at school sites as well as a mobile meals program.
That's amazing. It's so great the schools do this for these kids.
Yeah, we're in a school system where 31% of our students are eligible for free and reduced price meals, so certainly it's something that anything we can do to help sustain them when they're not in school is certainly good.
And I know Jane has talked about this before on our Talk With program, but we have a large homeless amount of children in our schools.
Right, over 1,000 students homeless last year, and certainly those are students, for whom we have to provide additional resources and transportation and those kinds of things. There are ways that the public can help out with that. Our 21st Century Education Foundation has a program where contributions can go directly to assist with our homeless students. Certainly not a number we want to see go up at all, but with the variety of situations that happen around our county and in our region, certainly one that we're continuing to deal with.
And for those that do want to help with these students and the 21st Century Education Foundation, there's a link you have off of your website.
Correct. If you go to our website and you select 21st Century Foundation, you can find it right there.
Or it's aacps.org/help homeless students.
Right.
Record number of students again this year getting ready to start, yes?
Yeah, we're expecting almost 82,000, if not over 82,000. That would be about 600 to 700 more than we had last year. What we're seeing is, quite frankly, a quality of education that we provide is bringing more and more students to our school system, and so certainly those create issues that we're attempting to deal with in terms of staffing and those kinds of things. But it certainly is a testimony to the work that our teachers are doing.
Well, obviously, it means more students in the schools, but does it mean more students in classrooms that are already overcrowded? You said you're trying to deal with this.
Yeah, so this year it certainly will mean that class sizes are going to go up, and that is because of the healthcare situation that we found ourselves in last May when we tried to deal with it at the budget time. And the county executive and the county council provided some significant one-time money to us to help offset the shortages that existed in our healthcare fund. And so that took up the bulk of any increase that we had in the budget, and so we didn't get additional teaching positions. So when you go up by 600 students and you don't have additional teachers, then your class sizes naturally are going to go up. But the healthcare shortage was something that we absolutely had to tackle.
And in recent history, we've had news that the purchase of the Papa John's property.
Oh, yes. So the Old Mill Cluster.
Old Mill Cluster,
right.
Exactly.
So the county is purchasing, in the process of finalizing that transaction, to my understanding, the Papa John's farm property. That will be a piece of property that we can use to help begin to break up that three-school piece of property that exists where Old Mill High School and the two middle schools now sit. Exactly what's going to go on Papa John's is not yet to be decided, but we are looking at how we can best utilize that property. Certainly, if we're going to break up that three-school complex, we've got to have additional land somewhere to do it.
Okay. Here's a topic of special interest to us, radio stations. Anne Arundel County Public Schools has its own radio station now.
So we have Crab Radio now, and that's in conjunction with Maryland Hall for the Creative Arts, but our students are providing programming and doing some of the engineering, and so we're just getting that off the ground, but we're looking to expand that and create even more opportunities for our students as it goes forward.
And this is for students in all the schools, or just sort of a magnet program? How does this work?
It's for students right now in our magnet program, but we're hoping to expand that to be able to include more students.
So for students that want to learn how to be announcers, DJs, newscasters,
right,
or whatever or have you in radio.
Engineers,
yeah.
or right. And so, but not just that. For any student or any program that's interested in in promotion and publicity, and I mean, it can be an arts program, right? And so it's the marketing of how you do that whole thing. It just, that medium happens to be radio, but it could really be anything.
I just think it's awesome. And what are the call numbers?
It's 104.7 FM.
And CRAB Radio stands for?
CRAB Radio stands for Creative Radio for Arts in the Bay.
School board is shifting from appointed to elected, which is a big deal. We're going to talk about that when we come back. We're going to take a short break. This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will be right back. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. This is the Back to School edition of the 1430 Connection, and in the studio with me is Bob Mosier, spokesperson for Anne Arundel County Public Schools. We are shifting now from an appointed school board to an elected school board. Why is that?
Well, that's a result of House Bill 716, which will transition the board from all appointed adult members to all elected adult members between now and 2020. So what will happen is that 4 members of the board will come off of the board in 2018, and there will be elections in council districts 1, 4, 5, and 7. Then the other 4 adult members will come off the board in 2020 and be replaced by 3 board members in council districts 2, 3, and 6.
Okay.
The board will go from 8 adult members to 7, plus the student. Student will retain full voting rights and continue to be the only student on a local board in the country with full voting rights. So on the 24th of August, the School Board Appointment Commission appointed Colin Reinhardt of Linthicum to fill the vacant seat that is on the board, and his term will be one of those that ends in 2018.
Why was it appointed? I mean, going back in history, how did we end up here?
Going back, I think it was an attempt to make sure that all the different parts of the constituencies of the county were well served. Mm-hmm. Certainly you can go back and forth on the debate of appointed versus elected. I've been here for 3 superintendents now, and they've all held the same view, which is it doesn't really matter to them how the people arrive on the board as long as they are willing to work for kids when they get on the board.
Right.
And we've certainly found that.
Okay. You have some personal experience with this subject right now, or probably last year and junior year for your daughter. College counseling. How did that go for you?
College counseling. So my daughter's a freshman at Salisbury.
Congratulations to her.
And she's having a great time so far. You know, it's interesting. I mean, the transition from high school to college is an interesting one for a student, but for a parent as well.
It's horrific.
As you're trying to look at, not the next 3 or 4 years, but somebody's next, 40 years or 50 years. And so she, probably like a lot of, students, has gone back and forth and through the realm of what she wants to do with her life. And she probably still doesn't know, as, most kids change majors 2 or 3 or 4 times in college. So,
right.
But the counseling piece is really important. And we have programs built in. There's a program called Naviance, which our school counselors use often, and try to get every student to really get involved in it because it sort of matches you. You do some programmatic work, and here are fields that might seem to apply to you. And sort of,
that's interesting.
It helps students think about things that they might not otherwise have thought of, right? And so my daughter, for example, is majoring at this point in political science, but she wasn't political science for a long time. She was
did this
sociology.
Program help her?
It did. That program and then opportunities that schools can afford to students, right? And so last year, for example, she was very involved with the student government and went to the General Assembly and got involved in the school board bill, along with some of her fellow students. And that really sort of sparked the political science thing for her. So there's a lot of different avenues that you can go through to do it, but making those opportunities available is really the key thing.
Thinking back, though, in your time, for all these parents that are going into middle school, not the parents, but, have kids going into middle school and how traumatic that can be for kid and parent, and going into high school. And I've heard, because my kid is not in public schools, but I've heard the transition from middle school to high school has been seamless for at least one friend, and they couldn't believe all the orientation, the leading into it.
And our principals in our schools do a tremendous amount of work on that. There are some summer bridge programs which help in that transition from 8th grade to 9th grade. There are some that help in the transition from 5th grade to 6th grade, because that is a big leap as well. Middle school and high school are 2 very different animals. And so the more that we can do to orient is the right word that you just used, right? And get students comfortable so that that first day and that first week isn't this big scary building and there's lots of intimidation. And that's one of the reasons we do the staggered start for 6th and 9th graders. So on that first day of school, they're the only ones in their buildings. And so 6th graders go to middle school on the 5th of September this year. 9th graders go to middle school on the 5th of September, but then 7th and 8th graders and 10th, 11th, and 12th graders don't go back until the
So they have the schools in themselves.
So they have a day to sort of figure out this brand new big building.
Yeah, that's great.
And at least get some of those jitters out of the way.
Makes a huge amount of sense.
Yeah, and it makes a big difference.
All right, so our country's going through this shift a little bit with a whole lot of it with our philosophies over historical figures and symbols. And in the wake of Charlottesville, Superintendent Arlotto wrote an opinion piece in the Capitol. I'm not sure where else it was published. In that, he wrote, Charlottesville and similar events, both local and national, have brought us to this moment. The critical question we face as we get set to open another school year is simple. Together, what will we do with this moment? What is Anne Arundel County Public Schools planning on doing with this moment?
I think the message is that this issue is more than just Anne Arundel County Public Schools, right? This is a societal issue. It's more than our school system, more than our county and city governments, more than community groups. It's all of us together. And that was Dr. Arlotto's point in his column, is that we all have a part to play in this. So we have been continuing discussions with county government about what kinds of things can we do publicly. We can put curricular pieces in place for the students. There's an adult component of this too. And so what can we do, what part can we play in trying to assist in the adult component? And those are the conversations that we're having with county government. We've had some of those conversations with city government, certainly those conversations with the respective police departments. We're trying to create a culture where hate is not accepted in any way, shape, or form, and where every student can be accepted and supported. And that's really the key.
And regarding curricular changes, are we seeing any, or will we be seeing any in the schools?
You're going to see some individualized things. I mean, there'll be some things that are thematic, but there'll be others. For example, in the wake of what happened last year at Arundel High School, they put in place...
Which was a KKK circular that was... Okay.
That's right. And so they put in place some programmatic pieces, and actually their students helped drive that. Their students really rose up and said, not here. Absolutely not here. This is not us, and it's not going to define us. And so they have a course now because their signature program is global citizenship. And so if you're going to be a global citizen, right, you have to be supportive and accepting and of things that are different. They're working on that, finishing the details of that now. But things like that will be school specific. Other things will be thematic and spread across the county. But also we need to recognize and celebrate and understand the contributions of community groups. And so I think of Crofton is Kind, a group that has sprung up in the wake of the noose incident at Crofton Middle School. And so right after that, if you remember, they organized a sidewalk chalk thing. And so kids went and wrote messages, which was very powerful. They just did an anti-bullying assembly on the 24th of August and involved 50 to 60 parents and students. Those kinds of things are critically important as we go through this process.
Are there resources in schools for students that feel like they might have issues at home with hate or with bullying or with what have you?
Right. So the short answer is yes. They may look different in each school, but teachers and school counselors are really the places to go, because if you're a student, right, you're with those people 6.5 hours a day. And so they are trusted folks to you, or should be trusted folks to you. And so any adult in our schools should be a safe place for any student to go to have those conversations.
Perfect. Okay. We're going to take another short break. When we come back, more about what's happening with Anne Arundel County Public Schools going into this latest school year. This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will be right back. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me is Bob Mosier, spokesperson for Anne Arundel County Public Schools. This has now become a tradition, our back to school edition. We have a new school opening up right down the street, taking the spot of what used to be, well, a place we both worked.
Exactly.
Capital Gazette newspaper.
I know that building well. So do you. The Monarch Academy Annapolis Public Contract School, which is the latest school to be operated by the Children's Guild, which also operates Monarch Academy in Glen Burnie and Monarch Global in Laurel. They'll open on the 5th of September to children in kindergarten through 5th grade, about 580 students. So it's a great new school of choice for our parents and our families. It also was designed as a contract school. We could draw the attendance boundaries, and so we drew them as the Annapolis cluster, so it was designed to and has alleviated some overcrowding from schools in the Annapolis cluster.
School of choice, what does that mean?
School of choice means that parents who live outside the attendance boundaries, or what would be the attendance boundaries of that school if it were a traditional school, can opt to go there. So any student at a school in the Annapolis cluster could apply to go to Monarch. You didn't have to live within a certain boundary around the building like you would at Hillsmere Elementary or Mills Parole.
Magnet schools. There was a point in time not too long ago that Anne Arundel County Public Schools was hot and heavy on the magnets and started science and STEM and arts. Where are we now? Are we going to end up like New York City public schools at some point where we have a school of advertising and design, a school for... Go ahead.
I don't think we're going to end up that far.
Okay.
Certainly, we are very, very proud of the magnet programs that we have in this county. And we've built out to fruition the first set of those. The next set, right, are going to require a different budgetary element to them. And so we'll see where we go there. But certainly, we have tremendous opportunities for students across this county at the middle school level and the high school level. If you're interested in the International Baccalaureate program, or you're interested in performing and visual arts, or you're interested in STEM at the middle school level, and then you add biomedical allied health, which is a STEM component, magnet really, at the high school level. I mean, there are opportunities for you, and those are all lottery-based programs.
Okay. And how is that going?
It's going good.
Still
We have
frustration?
There is frustration because there's waiting lists
Right.
at almost every single program. Could we accommodate more seats? Sure, we could in terms of the number of students who are interested. Again, that's a budgetary issue and a space allocation issue and those kinds of things.
Right. Tasting of the Rainbow. Here's another thing I tripped on your website, and I just think it's the coolest thing.
So
Speaking of global citizens.
Yeah, it really is cool. Jody Rissi and Food and Nutrition Services do an unbelievable job with trying to introduce children to fruits and vegetables that they otherwise may not have any idea what they are. And so Tasting of the Rainbow is once a month. We go out and we work with usually local farms, and we bring them fresh fruits or fresh vegetables that they're not acquainted with usually. Give it to them for free. It's interesting, right? I mean, you see a child who's never had squash.
Right.
And so some of them are ooh, right, like you would imagine, and some of them love it and want to go home and tell mom to go to the supermarket and get some. So
I just think it's so. I will add, there's also a video component where the kids are introduced to the food via video in the morning of the tasting, and this introduces them to the farmer. It says on your website, allows them to see the farm responsible for growing the fruit or vegetable. I just think it's the coolest thing. Speak about your other menu things going on with Anne Arundel County Public Schools.
For the fourth year in a row, we're not increasing food prices again this year. School breakfasts are $1.50, lunches at elementary and secondary schools are $2.75 or $3. You know, we're still coming out of the recession these 8 years later or so, and it's really important for us to try to contain the costs of our meals. The Food and Nutrition Services is not part of our operating budget, right? That's all done on food sales and state and federal grants. Jody and her team do an incredible job of managing that program so that we can keep these costs as low as possible.
All right. What have I missed, Bob?
I don't think anything. It's been a longer summer than usual. It'll be, by the time our students go back on the 5th, it'll be almost 3 months. We got out on the 8th of June. So our teachers have done probably a record amount of professional development over the summer with more time to do it. The reports that I'm hearing are just that professional development has been off the charts. When teachers came back on the 28th, I saw posts that morning that, you know, eager, great to be back, can't wait to get started.
And you're retweeting them, I'm seeing them.
And we're retweeting them. And so we'll do our AACPS Back to Awesome Twitter campaign again, where we're going to ask parents to post pictures of their students and use that hashtag, and we'll put together slideshows. Last year we put together 3 15-minute slideshows, and we still had parents complaining that their children didn't make the video. So that's a good problem to have, but we're really going to do that, and we're going to do a lot more with social media. And then finally, we have a new website. We worked a year on this website in the communications office. And
the address is the same.
The address is the same. Much more interactive, responsive to your mobile devices now, so no more swiping across 100 screens to get what you need. And we think it'd be a great improvement.
Snapchat? We've talked about this in the past.
Snapchats, we're
not there.
Instagram, we're there.
I know.
You're going to see us do Instagram with a lot more stuff this year. You're going to see us do a lot more video stuff on social media. Snapchat, we're still working on.
Which is where, and I don't need to tell you, is where the kids are.
That's right. That's right. And so when we first started with Facebook years ago, and then we launched Twitter, right? We went, well, the parents are on Facebook and the kids are on Twitter, so we got to be both places. Well, now because parents are moving down to Twitter, kids are moving to Instagram and Snapchat and whatever else will exist out there next week.
Yep.
So.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining me this year.
Always glad to be here.
This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will see you next week.